Good morning, Churchill. Another lovely sunny Tuesday morning. At least I hope it is, because it's Monday, about 6 o'clock, and it's pitch black outside. So I'm just guessing. Hope everyone is well. You enjoyed your extended write yesterday. Some fabulous writing going on in the classroom. Really good examples of descriptive writing. I'm going to stop the music and just say again, this week we're going to focus on our descriptive writing. So we had a good old go at it today. Some really exciting stuff going on. Presentation amazing. Thank you to those children who sent in examples of their work. We're going to start today just with a little thought or a joke. Which program does a Jedi use to open a PDF file? Now this could be on a Monday morning, a Tuesday morning, a Wednesday morning, any day of the week. Which program does a Jedi use to open a PDF file? It would be Adobe One Kenobi, methinks. Okay, just a little bit of a warm-up joke to get you into the mood. Right, let's get on to our first activity for today. So, the first thing I'd like you to do this morning, you can use your SPAG resources, it will be there. You're going to use these words to fill in the missing gaps for a bit of text. I want you to have a look closely at the background image here and think what is actually happening to this city. Okay, but first we're going to look at these spellings. Now all of these words end with the same suffix, which is ity. Okay, so you've got community, you've got curiosity, you've got ability, captivity, activity, sensitivity, and you've got possibility, you've got flexibility, visibility, and eternity. Now it's really important, if you don't understand the meaning of any of those words, some of those words that you either ask an adult, you can talk about it in class, or you could independently use a dictionary or look them up online, but do try and find out the meaning of those words, because you're going to need to understand that for this next activity. So what I would like you to do, think about what is happening to this city. Now you need to read through the little text, okay, the paragraph, and try and figure out which word best fits into the missing gap. Okay, so I'll read it through. It says, people in the something open their windows out of something to see what was happening. Something was poor and the something of the city disappearing. For all of something was highly likely. So you need to use the words that you're given on the screen and just try and work out which words best fit. Obviously you need to read it back to check for meaning. Okay, so that's your first activity. Pause the video, have a go, good luck with that, and then just get someone to check to see if you understand the meaning of those words, and then we'll check the answers. Okay, pause the video. Right, hopefully you've all had a good go at that. The answers are coming up. So, people in the community open their windows out of curiosity to see what was happening. Visibility was poor, and the possibility of the city disappearing for all of eternity was highly likely. Okay, so we're looking at a city that's been hit by a huge flood. Okay, now this week we're also going to be looking at descriptive writing, and we're going to start looking at a new text that I will reveal all tomorrow. Okay, so I'm really excited by that. I want you to start off this morning by thinking of different ways of describing this scene. So you can think about how to use the senses or fantastics. So this is a scene that might be familiar to you because we live on the coast. Just have a think. If you're at home, you might want to jot down some ideas. If you're in class, you can have a quick discussion. How would you describe this scene? Okay, so pause the video, have a bit of a discussion, and I'll get back to you in a moment. Right, well, hopefully you've had a chance to think about that. So obviously things that I noticed, there are clouds rising up in the sky. It looks like quite a kind of grey day. You've got a really clear horizon line. The waves are breaking on the shoreline. I can see the spray coming off of the waves as well. And it looks the sea looks kind of calm. Okay, or certainly out towards the horizon line. So hopefully you've used some good adjectives. You could talk about colour. You might have used some adverbs as well. Now, to change the mood of this picture, I'm going to add a second image, and I want you to think about how you might describe the picture now as it's changed. So pause the video, have another discussion or a think about how this new image changes the whole setting. So what would you describe the theme or mood as? Pause the video now. Okay, so a very different addition to the scene, and I don't know how you would have described it, but I find this image quite kind of spooky, a little bit haunting. There's just a lone figure. I think it looks like a girl standing on a rock, and she's looking out to sea, and it looks like she's looking towards an island where there are some, looks like a tall building of some sort out there. Don't know too much about her. She's got quite long hair. Her dress looks kind of ragged and a bit ripped. But I find this image quite kind of unsettling. So maybe not a sort of happy image. It's quite bleak. Makes me feel kind of quite sort of isolated. Okay, so it's something we can talk about later this week. So what are we going to do today? Today we're going to read several pieces of descriptive writing and then try and match them to a setting or a scene. You're then going to have your own turn at writing a short description using a picture to base your ideas on. So the first thing we're going to do is kind of look at different pictures and see if we can match up the writing to the photograph. Now, I want you to think about what makes a good description. What do you describe and how do you do this? So have a little think, pause the video for a moment. What makes a good description? Okay, now hopefully you've had a chance to talk about that. and we're going to get some ideas from Marcus Sedgwick, okay, who's an award-winning author, and he can give us some really good tips. So listen to what he says. He's got some really good advice. See if there's anything that you discussed in class or maybe at home had a think about. Okay, so watch the video carefully.
Hello, I'm Marcus Sedgwick. I'm a writer, and you might know me from books like The Raven Mysteries and Elf Girl and Raven Boy. I'm here to tell you a little bit how to improve your descriptive writing, how to improve your descriptions both of people and also of scenes. There's some good news. I think a lot of people, when they think, oh, I've got to write a descriptive scene or I need to describe a character, they panic because they think they have to describe every single thing about the room that their characters just walked into. And the good news is you don't have to. In actual fact, it can be quite a mistake to try and do that. Some writers do it, but very few people do it successfully. If you do over-describe a scene, for example, you're at danger of committing the worst crime that a writer can commit. What's that? To be boring. Much better to keep it simple and keep your readers' interest. Remember that you're not painting a picture, you're writing a story. And you only need a few words to tell that story. They just have to be the right ones. Now, although I said there's some good news, you don't need to go into long descriptions about what you're writing, there is some bad news too. Because you're only using a very few words, they need to be very good words. So you need to think carefully about what you're saying. Now, you could, for example, you need to describe a building that's in your story, and you could tell us the building is big. Well, fine, you could do that. But that's also potentially going to be quite boring. Much better to say, perhaps you describe the building as looming. And then not only have you told us that the building is big, you've also kind of implied that it's a little bit threatening too. You've almost brought it to life, and you did that with just one word. Let's say that your characters walk into a restaurant. Now, how are you going to describe this scene? You could spend a very long time describing everything in the restaurant, or you could just give us a few important, well-chosen things about this restaurant. You could say there's a stale smell of vegetables in the air, and you could say the carpet is crunchy. And at that point, we're going to know this is not a very nice restaurant that we've walked into. It's really important to remember that you haven't just got one sense to use to describe things, you've got lots of senses to use. So don't just talk about things you can see, talk about things your characters can smell or hear as well. The English language actually has a bigger working vocabulary than many other languages, and we've been invaded many, many times over the years. We were invaded by the Romans, we were invaded by the Anglo-Saxons, by the Vikings, by the Normans, and each one of those people brought their own language with us. So they brought Latin, and they brought Anglo-Saxon, and Old Norse, and French. And so English is actually a mixture of lots of different languages, and that means for any word you want to use, there's probably many different ways of saying it. But don't just reach for your thesaurus and start picking out random words and trying to throw them into your story. You have to know what they mean. You have to choose the right one. You have to choose a word that is exactly right for the sentence that you're writing. Let's have a little think about how to describe people. Now, again, I think people often make the mistake of thinking they have to describe exactly how a character looks. And again, some writers do that. It depends on the kind of book you're writing, but actually the way someone looks is very often the least important thing about them in a story. And it's actually much better to concentrate on their character. And by that we mean the things they say and the things they do. Now, you could, for example, describe a woman as beautiful, fine, but potentially a bit boring. But if you told me that when she walks in a room, everyone stops talking and looks towards her, that's much more interesting. We see the effect that she has on other people. To sum up, when you're doing a piece of descriptive writing, my advice is to keep it simple. But don't go for the obvious words, the words you hear all the time. Try and think of the right, interesting word, the word that's absolutely right for that sentence. Make full use of the wonderful, rich language that we have, and enjoy it. Above all, always enjoy it.
Okay, so some brilliant words of wisdom there from Marcus Sedgwick. two things I think really important. He said we've got such a rich language, which means that we've got lots and lots of different words to choose from. It's important in choosing the right words. And the other thing is to really enjoy your writing, to enjoy exploring using different vocabulary. So we're going to focus on that this week. So again, we've sort of mentioned briefly what we're going to do, but now I'm going to kind of show you. So what you are going to have in your resources, hopefully you've already printed them out, or you could just have a look at them. You've got 4 examples of text, and what you need to do is to match that text to 4 pictures that I'm going to show you in a minute. So you can either cut these out if you've printed out the PDF file from Adobe One Kenobi. You can cut them out and stick them and match them to the text. I also want you to have a look carefully at some of the phrases and the vocabulary, and you can highlight things that interest you. You might want to highlight words that you're unsure of, and then look those up in a dictionary or ask an adult or have a discussion about those. Okay, now I'm not going to read through all of these because that's going to be your job, but I'll just give you an example, like part of the first opening sentences. So we're going to have a look at this one first. It says, "It was a wraith silver disc hanging in the lonely sky." Okay, this one starts with, "The music of the meadow came to my ears above the sound of the water." This one, "It was a damp climate and many times we were forced to seek shelter in caves." And the final one, "The mist was spook grey." Now you've got to match those to the photos that are in the resources. So you need to read right the way through the texts. Again, you can have a discussion about them. What do you like? Why are they good examples of descriptive writing? Okay, so that's going to be your task. Let's just be super clear on it. Okay, so read them carefully before you stick them next to the correct picture. You must identify features of descriptive writing. So hopefully you're going to be looking for interesting vocabulary, the use of detail, use of the senses or fantastics. That's something that Marcus Sedgwick said in his clip. Okay, and finally you can just identify some adjectives, verbs, adverbs and prepositions, so words that will place an object somewhere. Okay, so try and highlight examples of this. You could use a dictionary to find the meaning of unknown words, and then you might write your own sentences just to describe the images. So I'll give you a few more photos in the resources. You might choose one of those photos and write your own phrases or sentences about that. So that's all I've got to say for today. Have a really good day. Really think hard about the texts and identifying those features of descriptive writing, because you're going to need that for this week. Okay, great stuff, guys. Look forward to seeing any of your work coming in on Discord. We've had some really good examples of maths being sent in, so I look forward to seeing some English work coming our way as well. Okay, guys, cheerio.